When I was 15, my life fell apart. My parents, Nina and Matthew, passed away suddenly within months of each other. One day I was a regular teenager, and the next I had no parents and no idea what would happen to me. I felt lost and scared, with no one to turn to. My older sister Blake was 26 at the time. She was married to Joshua, and I always thought she was responsible and dependable. Blake seemed like the kind of person who had everything together. I believed she would take care of me. She was my sister after all, but when I needed her the most, she refused to help me. Blake said she couldn't take me in because Joshua didn't want to be responsible for a child who wasn't his. That's how she put it. Not his child. I'll never forget those words. It made me feel like I didn't matter. It didn't seem to matter that I was her little sister, that we grew up together, or that I had nowhere else to go. What mattered was that Joshua didn't want me in their house, and Blake chose to go along with it. Blake and Joshua weren't struggling. They had good jobs and a nice house. They didn't have kids yet, so it wasn't like they were overwhelmed or didn't have space. They could have helped me, even just for a little while, but they didn't want to. Blake made it clear that it wasn't going to happen, and I was left on my own. I ended up living with different relatives, bouncing from one house to another. First, I stayed with an aunt who only took me in because she felt like she had to. She always reminded me how much trouble I was causing her. She said I should be grateful she was putting up with me. I slept on the couch for months and tried not to get in her way. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like I was a burden. After that, I lived with other relatives for short periods. Each time, it was the same story. They helped me because they felt obligated, not because they cared. I never felt wanted or loved. I lived out of a suitcase, constantly moving, never knowing where I'd end up next. It was exhausting, both physically and emotionally. All the while, Blake and Joshua were living their comfortable lives. They had parties, went on vacations, and enjoyed their time together. I heard about it through other family members or the occasional phone call. It was like they had completely erased me from their lives. They didn't check on me or ask how I was doing. It was as if I didn't exist anymore. What hurt the most was that Blake acted like she had no choice. She blamed Joshua, saying he didn't want to take on the responsibility of raising me, but she did have a choice. She could have stood up for me. She could have said, "This is my sister and I'm going to help her," but she didn't. She chose her husband's wishes over my well-being. I was 15, grieving the loss of my parents, and she turned her back on me. For years, I felt like something was wrong with me. I thought maybe I wasn't worth helping. Maybe I had done something to deserve being abandoned. Those thoughts stayed with me for a long time. They made an already hard time even harder. I had to deal with grief, loneliness, and the feeling that I didn't matter to anyone. Because Blake refused to help me, I had to grow up quickly. I worked part-time jobs while trying to finish school. I learned to take care of myself because I had no other choice. I missed out on so much. While other kids were thinking about prom or hanging out with friends, I was just trying to survive. I didn't have a stable home or anyone to rely on. It was a lonely and difficult time. Even now, 12 years later, I can't fully understand how Blake and Joshua justified their decision. Blake and I had the same parents. We grew up in the same house. How could she just leave me like that? Did she really feel nothing for me? Or was it easier for her to pretend I wasn't her problem? I'll never know, because Blake never apologized or showed any signs that she regretted what she did. As far as I know, she and Joshua moved on without a second thought about me. Years went by and I built my life without Blake. I worked hard, finished school, and slowly found some stability. It wasn't easy, and the pain of what happened stayed with me. But I learned to move forward. I didn't keep in touch with Blake. There was no reason to. She had made her choice all those years ago, and I didn't want her back in my life. One day, out of nowhere, I got a call from her. I didn't recognize the number, and when I answered, I was shocked to hear Blake's voice. She was crying so hard that I could barely understand her. She kept saying she needed my help. It took a while, but I finally understood what she was trying to say. Joshua, her husband, had left her for another woman. He'd been having an affair, and now he was gone. She said she had nowhere to go and begged me to let her stay with me. I didn't know what to say. Memories of being abandoned by her when I was 15 came rushing back. All the nights I cried, all the times I felt completely alone. She had turned her back on me because Joshua didn't want the responsibility of having a teenager in their home. And now she wanted me to take her in because Joshua had left her? It felt unbelievable. Blake kept talking, saying he had lost everything. The house was in Joshua's name, and she didn't have any money saved because he controlled their finances. She had been a stay-at-home wife for years and didn't have a job or any experience to get one. She told me she had been staying with a friend, but it was only temporary and she needed somewhere stable. After the call, I sat there for a long time thinking about what to do. On one hand, I felt like I should help her because she was my sister. But on the other hand, I remembered how she treated me. She left me to fend for myself when I was a scared teenager. Why should I help her now when she didn't help me back then? I thought about everything I had been through to get to where I am today. I worked hard to build a life for myself. Nobody helped me, and when my parents died, I had to figure everything out on my own. Blake didn't step in to help me, even though she could have, and now she wanted me to save her. It felt unfair. I also thought about what it would mean if I let her move in. She had no money and no job, so I would have to support her financially. I'd have to give her food and a place to sleep. It would completely disrupt my life, and I wasn't sure I wanted to do that for someone who had hurt me so much. In the end, I decided to say no. I sent her a short message telling her I couldn't help. I didn't explain or try to justify my decision. I just said I wasn't in a position to take her in. It wasn't a lie. While I'm doing okay now, I'm not rich and my life isn't perfect. Taking her in would have been a huge burden, and I wasn't willing to do it. Blake didn't take it well. She called me again, crying and begging me to reconsider. She said I was her only hope and that she couldn't believe I would turn my back on her. She said family is supposed to help each other. That made me so angry. Where was that attitude when I was 15 and needed her? Where was her sense of family then? It felt so hypocritical. I didn't say any of that to her. I didn't see the point. Instead, I blocked her number. I couldn't deal with her calls and messages anymore. Even though I knew I had made the right choice, it still bothered me. Part of me felt guilty. Society tells us that family is everything and that you should always help your relatives, but what about when your family doesn't help you? What about when they abandon you when you need them the most? Does the rule still apply then? I thought about the life Blake had with Joshua. She relied on him for everything. She didn't work or save money. She didn't think about what would happen if things went wrong. Now she was dealing with the consequences of her choices. It wasn't my responsibility to fix her life. I had my own life to worry about, and I wasn't going to throw it into chaos for someone who didn't care about me when I needed her. Blake's situation is sad, but I don't think it's my problem. She made her choices just like I made mine. I chose to work hard and take care of myself. She chose to rely on someone else completely. It's harsh. but it's the truth. I keep wondering if I'm being too cold. Maybe I should have helped her, at least for a little while. But then I remember how alone I felt when I was younger. I remember how she turned her back on me. I don't think I owe her anything. She didn't help me. So why should I help her now? So Reddit, AITA, for refusing to let my sister move in after she abandoned me when I needed her the most. Update 1. Blake and I had a special bond growing up. There was an 11-year age gap between us, but that never seemed to matter. She was always there for me, always protecting me from everything. We had an amazing relationship. She was my oldest sister, and I knew I could always count on her no matter what happened. Even if I lost everyone else, I was sure Blake would always have my back. Blake's first boyfriend was Joshua. It wasn't surprising that she changed a bit when they started dating. I knew she would be busy with him, but the change was more than I expected. She didn't seem to have as much time for me anymore. She was still my sister, but it felt different. She spent so much of her time with Joshua, and I started to feel like I wasn't as important to her. I tried to understand. After all, he was her first boyfriend, but deep down I still thought she would always be there for me no matter what. Then everything changed when our parents died. I was just 15 and I didn't know how to handle it. Losing both of them was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. And what made it worse was that Blake, the one person I thought would never leave me, abandoned me too. She stopped talking to me and cut me off completely. I couldn't believe it. She was my sister, and she just walked away when I needed her the most. I was left alone. I was still a kid, and I didn't know how to deal with everything on my own. I didn't have anyone to turn to. Blake was gone. I had no one. I couldn't understand why she would do that to me. Why would she leave me when we had always been so close? It was hard, and I felt completely lost. It took me years to figure out how to survive without her, without anyone. Now, 12 years later, Blake is back, and she's asking for my help. She's going through a rough time after her breakup with Joshua, and she says she has nowhere to go. She's asking me to take her in, but I'm not sure I can do that. After all these years, after everything she did to me, I don't know if I can just let her back into my life. She was the one who walked away when I was just a kid. She was the one who abandoned me when I needed her most. And now, after all this time, she expects me to help her? I could be the bigger person, I know. I could let her stay with me and pretend like nothing happened. But I can't forget the years of pain, the years when she wasn't there for me. I had to grow up on my own. I had to figure everything out by myself because she wasn't there to help me. She's an adult now. She can handle her own problems. She made her choices. I was a minor when she left me, and I had to fend for myself. I've had to take care of myself for all these years, and I don't see why I should be responsible for her now. She didn't help me when I needed her, so why should I help her now? I've learned to be strong on my own. I've learned to live without her, even if it was hard. I've built my life, and I'm not sure I'm ready to open the door to someone who walked away from me without a second thought. She's asking for help, but I can't forget how she left me. I can't just ignore all the pain she caused. So no, I'm not going to take her in. She made her choice all those years ago. Now she needs to deal with the consequences of that. She's an adult, and she can take care of herself. It's not my responsibility anymore. I've already done the hard part of my life without her. I don't owe her anything. Update 2. Last week, I went out to a local restaurant with a few friends. It was supposed to be a fun, normal evening. We were laughing and chatting, just having a good time. But then something happened that I wasn't expecting at all. I saw Blake. She was there, working as a waitress. At first, I didn't even recognize her. It's been 12 years since I last saw her, and I wasn't looking for her in a place like that. But when she came closer, I knew it was her. My heart stopped for a moment. It was so shocking to see her after all these years. I didn't know what to do or how to react. Blake came to take our orders, and when she saw me, her face changed completely. She froze for a moment, and then she just started crying right there in front of everyone. I was completely stunned. I didn't know what to say or do. It was so awkward. The restaurant was packed, and suddenly everyone was staring at us. My friends looked confused too, because they didn't know who Blake was or why she was crying. The whole moment felt so heavy and overwhelming. I had spent so long trying to move on from what happened with Blake, and now, out of nowhere, she was standing right in front of me crying. It brought back a flood of emotions: hurt, anger, sadness, and even a little guilt. Luckily, the manager came over quickly and stepped in. She tried to calm things down and told Blake to stop crying. The manager apologized to me and my friends for the scene and took Blake aside. She led her away from our table, and Blake disappeared into the back of the restaurant. I just sat there feeling completely lost. I didn't know what to feel. Part of me was angry. After all, Blake abandoned me when I needed her most. But another part of me felt guilty. Seeing her cry like that in front of everyone made me feel bad for her. After a few minutes, I noticed the manager talking to Blake in the back. It looked like she was scolding her, and I started to worry that Blake might lose her job because of what happened. As much as I'm still hurt by her actions, I didn't want to be the reason she got fired. So I got up and went to the manager, and I asked her not to fire Blake over what happened. The manager looked surprised at first, like she didn't expect me to say that, but after thinking about it for a moment, she agreed. She said she would just give Blake a warning and let her keep her job. After that, I went back to my table, but I couldn't focus on anything else. My friends asked me what was going on, but I didn't feel like explaining the whole story to them right then and there. I was too caught up in my own thoughts. Later that evening, after I left the restaurant, Blake sent me a text message. She thanked me for saving her job. She said she was really sorry for what happened earlier and asked if we could meet up and talk. Since then, I've been thinking a lot about what to do. On one hand, I feel like I owe it to myself to hear her out. Maybe she has an explanation for why she left me all those years ago. Maybe there's something I don't know. Talking to her could give me some closure, and maybe it would help me let go of some of the hurt I've been holding on to for so long. But on the other hand, I'm not sure if I can handle seeing her again. Blake abandoned me when I was still a kid. She didn't just leave me physically. She cut off all contact and never checked on me. For 12 years, I've had to carry the weight of that abandonment. I had to grow up and figure everything out on my own because the one person I thought I could always count on disappeared. Now, Blake is an adult. She's responsible for her own life, and while I feel bad for her and the situation she's in, I don't know if it's my place to help her. When I needed her, she wasn't there for me, so why should I be there for her now? At the same time, I keep thinking about how she looked when she started crying at the restaurant. She seemed so broken, and it's hard for me to ignore that, no matter how much she hurt me. Blake was once the most important person in my life. She was my big sister, my protector, and the one person I thought would never leave me. I'm stuck between wanting to protect myself and not wanting to be cruel. Part of me wants to say no and keep moving forward without her. But another part of me wonders if this is a chance to fix things, even if it's just a little. I really don't know what to do. Should I meet with her and hear her out? Or should I protect myself and leave the past where it is? I could use some advice from anyone who's been in a similar situation or has thoughts about what I should do. Update 3. A few days ago, I ran into Blake again, and this time at a supermarket. I was surprised to see her there, working part-time. It felt strange and awkward. She noticed me and came over to talk. Blake started asking me how I was doing and tried to make conversation, but I didn't know how to respond. I gave her short, one-word answers. I wasn't trying to be mean, but after everything that happened between us, I didn't know how to act. I still felt hurt and unsure. Blake kept trying to talk, but after a while, she seemed to realize I wasn't in the mood for a long chat. She gave up and walked away. As I was leaving the store after checking out, Blake stopped me again. This time she asked if I had thought about her request to meet and talk. I told her I needed more time to decide. That conversation stuck with me, though. I couldn't stop thinking about it. The next day, after giving it some thought, I decided to give her a chance. I texted her and said I'd meet her. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. Part of me was bracing for the worst, but I felt like I needed to see her, even if just to figure things out for myself. We met at a local coffee shop. I was nervous and unsure of how it would go. I half expected Blake to ask for something, money or a place to stay or some kind of help, but to my surprise, that didn't happen. Blake didn't ask for anything. Instead, she wanted to talk about the past. She asked me about my life. Even though I was still guarded, I answered her questions. She seemed genuinely interested, which caught me off guard. Slowly, she opened up about her own life and everything she'd been through. She started by telling me about her relationship with Joshua, the man she had chosen over me so many years ago. She shared how things between them had fallen apart. At first, it sounded like they had a good relationship, but then she revealed the truth. Blake told me that Joshua never wanted kids. She got pregnant a few times during their relationship, but each time he pressured her to have an abortion because he didn't want the responsibility of raising a child. Hearing that broke my heart. It got worse. She told me that Joshua started cheating on her. When she confronted him about it, he didn't even seem to care. He brushed it off, saying it wasn't a big deal and that this is just how men are. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked her why she didn't leave him sooner. She admitted that she didn't feel like she had a choice. She had no one else to turn to, and Joshua was the only person she had. She stayed with him even though he treated her poorly because she didn't know where else to go. Eventually, Joshua was the one who ended the relationship. Surprisingly, Blake said she was thankful for it. She told me that, in a way, it was the best thing that could have happened. Now, she feels free and ready to start over on her own terms. But then she shared something that completely changed how I felt about everything. Blake is pregnant again. And this time it's also Joshua's child. She hasn't told him about it because she's afraid he'll force her to have another abortion. I was shocked. I didn't know what to say at first. I asked her how she planned to handle everything, raising a child on her own, dealing with the financial stress, and figuring out her life. She admitted she didn't have all the answers yet. Blake said she's working 2 jobs and trying to save as much money as possible. She mentioned that she still has the inheritance money Mom and Dad left for both of us, but she doesn't want to rely on it unless she absolutely has to. At that moment, something inside me shifted. For so many years, I've held on to anger and resentment towards Blake. I've been hurt by the way she abandoned me when I needed her the most, and while those feelings are still there, hearing her talk about her struggles and her pregnancy made me see things differently. Without really thinking it through, I offered her a solution. I told Blake she could move in with me and Neil, my fiancé. I said this way she could save the money she's currently spending on rent and use it to prepare for her baby. I also promised to help her raise the child no matter what. Before making the offer, I had talked to Neil about the situation. I wanted to make sure he was okay with it. When I told him Blake was pregnant, He didn't even hesitate. He immediately said yes and agreed that we should help her. At first, Blake seemed hesitant. I think she was surprised that I offered to help her after everything that happened between us, but eventually she agreed, and she said she appreciated the offer and was grateful for the chance to start fresh. Blake will be moving in with us next week, and she's about 13 weeks pregnant now, and while I'm still unsure about how everything will play out, I feel like I'm making the right choice. I know it won't be easy. There's a lot of history between us, and I still have mixed emotions about the way she treated me in the past. But I also know that holding on to anger forever won't help either of us. This feels like a chance to heal, not just for me, but for her too. I want to give Blake and her child the support they need. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm hopeful that this can be a new beginning for all of us. Maybe in time we can rebuild our relationship and move forward as a family again. Update 4. It's been a few months since my last update, and so much has happened since then. Blake is now 30 weeks pregnant, and life has changed in ways I didn't think it would. First, Blake and Joshua are officially divorced. The process took some time, but it's finally done. The day they met with their lawyers to finalize everything was a bit chaotic. Joshua saw Blake for the first time in months, and he noticed that she was visibly pregnant. He completely lost it. He started yelling at Blake and demanding that she let him back into her life. He claimed he had every right to be involved now that there was a baby, but Blake stood her ground. She told him it was too late and that she didn't want him in her life anymore. She reminded him of all the chances she had given him over the years and how he wasted every single one. Joshua didn't take it well. After that meeting, he started showing up uninvited, calling and texting Blake all the time. He kept trying to convince her to take him back, but Blake wanted nothing to do with him. It got to a point where Neil and I had to step in. We told him that if he didn't leave her alone, we would get a restraining order against him. That finally scared him off, and he hasn't bothered us in a while. As for Blake, she's been living with Neil and me, and things are going really well. She seems happier and more at peace than I've seen her in years. Living together has given us a chance to rebuild our relationship, and it's been a good experience so far. Blake has been focused on her pregnancy and getting ready for the baby. She's also taking better care of herself, which is nice to see. One of the most special moments for me recently was my wedding. Yes, I got married last month. Neil and I had a beautiful ceremony with all our friends and family there to celebrate with us. And the best part? Blake walked me down the aisle. It was such an emotional moment for both of us. Growing up, I always imagined Blake would be by my side on my wedding day, but after everything that happened between us, I never thought it would actually happen. Having her there and seeing how far we've come meant so much to me. I won't lie, there was a time when I didn't think I'd ever be able to forgive Blake. What she did was really painful. She left me when I needed her the most, and it took a long time for me to even consider letting her back into my life. But over the past few months, I've seen how much she regrets what happened. She's genuinely trying to make things right, and I can see how hard she's working to turn her life around. I think we've both realized that holding on to the past isn't helpful, and it's time to move forward. Forgiveness isn't easy, especially when someone's actions hurt you deeply. But I've learned that sometimes people make mistakes, even big ones, and they deserve a second chance. Blake is trying to be better, and I want to support her as she moves forward. Life is far from perfect, but I feel like we're finally heading in the right direction. Blake is doing her best to prepare for the baby and to build a stable future for herself. Joshua is out of the picture, at least for now, and Neil and I are starting our new life together. I'm also really excited about becoming an aunt. Blake's baby will have so much love, and not just from her, but from me and Neil as well. It's been a long journey to get to this point, but I'm glad we're here. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.